everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Ascending with Ashley podcast. I'm your host, Ashley, and I'm back with Dani.
Hi,
She's
friends.
been, yes, Dani's been a regular guest here on the Ascending with Ashley podcast, and I love that for us. I hope you all are doing amazing today. How are you, Dani?
I'm good. I feel like we've had this episode kind of pinned and
We
ready for a
have,
little while, and I'm
we
really
have.
excited that it's actually here now. This is going to be a good one.
And so too, I want to kind of speak to the importance of working from a space of intuition because you are right, Danny. We've had this episode pinned, and you and I both are very intuitive workers. We have got a lot of water placements, friends. We've gone over both of our charts before many times. Go look back in the content, it's in there. And water placements tend to work from a place of intuition. And today, we're like going over what do we want to do. And I'm like, I want to talk about, and as the title you guys see, we're doing Heath Ledger's birth chart. And at the time that we're recording this, we are right in this liminal space of the full moon in Aries. And so Danny and I go to pull up Heath Ledger's birth chart today. And what do you know? He is an Aries sun sign. And everything always works out for us. And so, just a little note to any of you who are looking to step into this world in a professional way or anything like that. You don't have to be perfect. Your intuition is
Oh, yeah.
often more than enough working from an intuitive space. So, yeah.
100%. If you trust your content creation, similarly to trusting your tarot deck, you know, what you're supposed to
Good point.
record about comes through, just like the right cards come through. Totally.
Mm-hmm. Very good point. It's funny that you mentioned that. My decks have been staring me in the face today. I think I'm going to do a bit of a reading a little later. You
Mm.
know how sometimes they're just like staring at you, like, pick
Oh,
me up,
yeah.
pick me up, pick me up? Yeah, that's been the vibe today. And it's probably that full moon energy,
Oh,
being a
yeah.
moon ruled person. Yeah. So, but other than that, so before we get into it, how have you been in general? Like, it's October, it's spooky season, it's fall, the best season of all.
Best season of all. It's like a special kind of magic up here in the Northeast, as you very
I was
well know,
I was
Ash.
just going to ask you
Yeah.
that because I know that
100%.
you were Colorado for so long, and I know you've been in the Northeast for a little while now, but it's still new for you. Isn't it
I know.
fun?
It's
Fall
so,
is
so
fun
exciting.
up
I've
here.
already made some soup. I've made some apple spice
Mm-hmm.
muffins. Oh yeah. I sink right the hell into it. But this is fun today because this is like back to Astrology After Dark roots today. Doing the birth chart of a celeb like this that we both like and enjoy, and like this happened. Heath Ledger's career and death happened, you know, for millennials. We know a lot about this, and we remember when it happened and everything like that. It is interesting that we've done the Olsen twins before, and
Mm-hmm.
that
And him
now
and Mary
we are
Kate,
gonna
yeah.
look, yeah, now we're gonna look at the birth chart of Heath Ledger. You brought this episode up like among our very first Astrology After Darks. Like you've wanted to
Yeah.
do this for a while, and it's so funny the message you said about intuition, because I think that you're absolutely right that like it gets pinned on the bulletin board for a reason, and it gets talked about at the right time. And this is kind of perfect because you've attributed Pluto energy to the Joker before, to Joker energy. Obviously, Heath Ledger's potentially most infamous role. And this is like we're heading into Scorpio Pluto ruled season right now, and I know that that's kind of where we're going with some of our next episode and everything like that. So this is a cool one. We're recording this at the right time for sure.
Yeah, yeah. I've always been a Heath Ledger fan. I remember as a kid watching him in A Knight's Tale, and just being like mesmerized by this like blonde, charismatic knight sort of man, and following his career over time. And I think you said it great. Just us being millennials and remembering when he passed and being jolted by it and not fully understanding what happened. And he's like in the heart of these roles, like much anticipated roles, and just gone too soon. And I think the Joker arguably was his best work out there personally. And playing the Joker, I mean, what an amazing method actor.
Yeah.
And yeah, I just wow, like to be I strive to be that dedicated to my craft. It's insane what a lot of these actors do to really kind of get in a space where they need to be. Um, with that being said, I get some of my best ideas in the morning, so my brain is just fucking going. We need to do Shia LaBeouf. Speaking of,
Oh, I would
yeah,
love to
no, we
do
need to do
that.
Shia
Also, a
LaBeouf.
fascinating journey. Fuck yeah. Okay, that's a
Fascinating
great
journey.
one.
Yeah,
Great one.
guys, my brain is on like overdrive right now. Like the morning is when the downloads are always coming through. Danny and I were on for like an hour just like keying and talking about stuff. So sorry if my squirrel brain is on like autopilot, but I just wrote down Shia LaBeouf. Speaking of which, friends, make sure that you subscribe wherever you're watching this, whether it's YouTube, whether it is Spotify, Apple Podcasts. We have some good stuff coming out. Our next episode is going to be a special Halloween edition. Let's just say we are going to be going over serial killers. Throw that out there. Just say it just like that. We have some stuff to say. We're gonna explore some of that and like what astrology really has to do with it, and it may not be what you think. So if you
Yeah.
were curious about that, especially what really sparked this was the Ed Gain um drama series. I'm
Hmm.
gonna say drama series that's on Netflix right now, and the deep dive I've been doing, not just on him. And Danny loves this shit. So like, why the hell haven't we talked about
Oh
this
yeah.
yet? So make sure you subscribe and ring that notification bell so that you
Oh
know
yeah.
when this episode drops, because it will be dropping on All Hallows Eve.
Yeah. All of our
Um,
other true crime adjacent fans out there, make sure you're
yeah.
subscribed.
And I feel like if you're a little witchy, you at least are curious
Exactly.
about this
Yeah.
sort of stuff.
Exactly.
So interesting. But yeah, so let's get into it. So we talked a little bit about Heath Ledger. I think maybe before we pull up the chart, we can talk a little more about him. If you guys don't know who he is, I mean, are you living under a rock? If you're not very familiar with him, because we are in our mid 30s, and if some of our listeners are in their early 20s, they may not be, which is crazy to think, but it is what it is. Heath Ledger was an amazing actor that was gone too soon, and there's a lot of controversy and speculation over his death, how he died, why he died. Long story short, what it seems to be is that he was so into his craft, and the pressures of his work was whacking out his schedule. And long story short, it sounds like all of this is allegedly, by the way, that he was taking things to help him sleep, and potentially taking things to help him rise, and taking things to help him function. We all know how you can get into that cycle. And just because you have money and you're a celebrity doesn't mean that you are above that cycle. In fact, it means you're probably more into that cycle. So long story short, he took some things, and it led to his death. And Mary Kate Olsen does get involved here in this story. So let's pull up his IMDb, because IMDb can do it better, just to give you guys some background on what he was in, some stuff that you would definitely know. So The Dark Knight, 10 Things I Hate About You, Brokeback Mountain, A Knight's Tale, The Patriot, um, Candy, Lords of Dogtown, The Brothers Grimm, Monsters Ball, Two Hands, Casanova, Ned Kelly, Four Feathers, The Order. I like it goes on and on and on. Some of these movies, you guys are probably like, I don't even know he was in it. Yeah. He
Hmm.
was in a lot of these movies. So, um, yeah, look up some of his work because he's just so damn good. So damn good.
He
Out
was
of some
really
of,
amazing. Yeah, he
yeah,
was such a good.
Monsters Ball
Mm-hmm.
is another one. I loved Monster. Oh yeah, the Imaginarium of Dr. Parnassus. Loved
Mm-hmm.
that movie. That's one of his lesser known movies, but unfortunately, he was also working on that movie when shit was popping off too, so they had to change out the character. The same with the Joker. And
That's right.
yeah, that's a very good movie that is very underrated. If you, The Imaginarium of Dr. Parnassus,
Okay.
incredibly underrated.
Okay.
Check out. Nobody ever talks about that movie.
No, I've heard of
Yeah,
it, but I haven't watched it either. Okay.
it's very very good. So, but yeah, let's talk about him. So, I'm going to share my screen. Guys, we're using a new platform. So if you're watching on YouTube, hopefully everything looks okay. Fingers crossed. There's my share button. Share screen. Astrology birth chart of Heath Ledger. Um, can you see my screen, Dani?
Yeah.
Okay, and I can see you in the cut. Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
Um, Okay, so it is important to know we're using Astro Dash charts. If you guys have been with us for a while, you know we love them. That the birth time accuracy is poor. We did compare this birth time to a bunch of other astrological engines, like five. They're all giving six. Excuse me. They're all giving 6:30 a.m. So it's important to note that it's poor. It doesn't mean it's wrong. Um,
Yeah, they're probably using sunrise time. So like the default on most apps and websites, if you don't know the birth time, is to just put in sunrise of that day. And what you just need to keep in mind if you don't know the birth time is that you're not going to be able to truly know the ascendant and you won't know the true positions of the houses, but you will be able to determine the positions of the planets that day, which, as we both know, Ash, we can get plenty of information. You could record a whole episode about someone's just their big three. So to have, to know where their planets are is plenty to know.
And remember, friends, this is because the planets move at a much slower rate. And, the housing system is very much based on location and
Mm-hmm.
time. So, for today's episode, we can leave the ascendant out of it and we can focus on the planets and the signs that they're in. Um, because much like Dani said, like for example, where's our dear friend Jupiter? It takes Jupiter a year to move from sign to sign. So Heath Ledger's Jupiter looks like it's in like the last degree of Cancer here. Let me
Mm-hmm.
just double check that for us. Yep, it's in the
That's what I
last
have
degree of
too.
Cancer.
29. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that is like 99% correct. I would
Right.
even go higher than that just
Probably.
because
Yeah,
it
I
takes
agree.
Jupiter. Yeah, it takes Jupiter a while. So
You
hopefully,
got to look
friends,
at the
that makes clear
moon.
sense.
Yeah, that's one that you want to look at. The moon moves pretty fast. And
Exactly.
so if we pulled this up based on this 6:30 a.m. time, and let's say his moon was at like the second degree, he could have, if he was born before 6:30 a.m., he might have been born when the moon before it had changed sign.
Over to Cancer. Yeah.
Right, but this is stuff that you really, if you're just starting out in astrology and this stuff we're talking about right now sounds overwhelming, I promise stick with it. The more charts you look at, the more that this eventually makes better and better sense to you. But just know that, like, because all of his placements, yeah, are like 6 degrees and above, and like Ashley said, bearing in mind how fast some of these move, we're pretty confident that the placements and the planets are where they are. And Ash and I know how long it takes Jupiter to change signs, for example, because we studied and we looked, you looked that stuff up. How
Mm-hmm.
long does it? How
Mm-hmm.
long does Jupiter stay in a sign before it moves again? What about Saturn? What about the Moon? You
Right,
start
right.
learning that stuff over time. So if you're not
100%.
quite there yet, still trust. Stay with us.
I just can't get over like the tech. So, Danny and I were just talking earlier about like how our phones listen to us. And you were mentioning Sabrina Carpenter earlier, and are you seeing Sabrina Carpenter in the cut right now? Her birth chart?
Yeah, which I'm not
Fucking
surprised because
weird.
these are the trend. They always on Astro charts. They always put all the trending celebrity charts, and I can't say I'm surprised. The truth is Donald Trump has been at the top of my list up here for. Is he at the top of yours or no? Or is
He's
your
been
top
around.
Taylor Swift? Like on your screen, is the
I
top
mean,
of
I
yours
wouldn't be
Taylor Swift?
surprised because I haven't been able to fucking stop with her album. Taylor Swift. I have not been
That's
able to
hilarious.
stop with her new
The
album.
top one for mine is Donald Trump up here. It always is, which is hilarious, and I've never
Oh
even looked
shit.
at
Cardi
his
B's
at
a.
his but
Yeah.
Taylor makes sense. Sabrina makes sense.
Oh my
I
god,
have
it
Jenna
just switched to Donald
Ortega.
Trump.
Yeah, yeah.
I can't stand him. Ew, I don't want him on my screen. Okay.
No, it's
That's the
because
most you guys are going to get about my political views.
the only reason it's trending is because of the amount of people who look up his chart, which makes sense. People want to
If you
know.
guys want us to do Donald Trump, let us know in the comments. We'll do it only if you want us to do it. But, like,
You
that is
also don't have
only
to.
if you want us to do
Yeah.
it. We definitely don't have to. Okay, let's get into this.
Yeah,
So
let's
I
do this.
say, since we are right in the heart of an Aries full moon, let's talk about Heath Ledger's Aries sun and the attributes of an Aries sun, Aries energy in general. Let's just talk all things Aries. Why don't you kick us off, Dani?
I mean, right off of the bat, where I go with Heath Ledger's Aries Sun is the conversation you started about his method acting. Because when I
Yeah,
think of Aries the Ram, Aries' zodiac motto is I am.
yeah,
Because it's the sign of action. And because it's symbolized by the ram, I always think of the metaphor of diving headfirst or throwing our whole self into things. And that's what I think about and this is why Aries is so closely tied to this conversation about identity and authenticity and self, like this focus on self. And I think it's why Heath Ledger, for him, he expressed a lot of that through throwing himself into something he was creatively passionate about, which was definitely acting. And I think that he didn't, some people might second guess that a little bit, but Aries energy isn't very known for second guessing. You know what I mean? Like
no,
they are much more known for being, just going in, putting themselves in there, making the first move, initiating action, speaking up. And I think this is reflected in not only his method of just throwing himself wholly into a character, but I think it makes sense why he had the successful career that he did, because I bet he was also a person who like didn't have to think twice as much and didn't second
yeah,
guess himself as much and probably put himself out there more and probably spoke up, especially in the world of acting and how saturated it can be trying to really truly get famous and make a name for yourself. You stand out when you don't take those microseconds of second guessing yourself or second stepping yourself and just
yeah,
going head first full into things. And I see this in his acting, but I also see this in his interviews. I love watching a Heath Ledger interview. He is
interview.
just like
Yeah,
himself. You know what I mean? Like he's very raw himself. His any privacy that he has is like intentional on his part. But you're not seeing a fake version of him. And that to
yeah.
me is very, very quintessential uh, Aries sun for sure. That boldness.
Yeah. No, I fully agree with that. I also think too, Aries, they're the leader. They're the firstborn in the zodiac, and when I think of Aries energy, I think of like the phrase "I go first."
Hmm.
I'll do it first. And if you
Hmm.
look at his work over time, it could definitely be argued that he was before his time. With, like you said, in
Yeah,
his interviews, being so authentic to who he was, with the way that he immersed himself in his roles, with the roles that he chose to take, with the way that he acted out certain characters, he was very much a man before his time when
Yeah.
he was coming up. Like to think of the work he'd be doing now in 2025 is wild, and the
Hmm.
roles that he would choose to take. And it's interesting because you see in the beginning of his career, there was a lot of stereotypical blonde hair, I'm the
Hmm.
cute guy crush roles. And as he got more matured into his craft, he started taking some of those darker roles, some of those more cutthroat roles, and things like that. And I think when I look at his Aries sun, I think of somebody who's unafraid to do it first, who's not even thinking about the fact that they're going first, right?
Yep.
And I think that's a beautiful trait to have, to not get in your head of, like, how's this going to be perceived? If I do it
Totally.
this way, it's never been done this way. Like, is that going to be okay? And just really care about the work and the role and what you're doing, and to be in this space of knowing that the magic that you're putting in the world is supposed to be there. Um, I think that is a beautiful space to be, um, which is interesting. I wanted to go to his Cancer moon, but kind of piggybacking off of what I just said, this to me leads into that Mars and Pisces energy, right? And so,
Oh,
um,
yeah.
right, yeah. So Aries is Mars ruled. So essentially, the planet Mars and the sign Aries have a love affair together. And the way that I love to describe Mars is the planet of what you're passionate about, what you fight about, and what you fight for. You know,
Hmm.
and a Mars in Pisces has always been a fascinating placement for me because you have this fire energy with this water energy, and our Pisces friends are sensitive and soft and artsy and in the clouds and imaginative and intuitive, and Mars energy is incredibly intentional and impulsive and direct and raw. And looking at an actor like Heath Ledger and his filmography, it can 100% be argued that he definitely put his whole chest into his roles. Like, if you look at his roles,
Yeah.
even when he was working on roles at the same time, you would never know.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, like there was an emotional connection and passion behind the work that he did. And I'm it's giving method actor. Just these two, like, you are a method actor. I think Mars and Pisces, and Mercury and Pisces too. Is Mercury in there as well? It looks like he is. Yeah, Mercury and Mars are conjunct.
I
Yeah.
just noticed something that I'm gonna look up for us
Okay.
because I want to know if Heath Ledger died during his Saturn return.
Mm. Yeah, look that up for us. So while you're looking that up, I'll kind of explain a few things that we just said.
Okay.
So, friends, when I use the word conjunct, I want you to remember conjunct is when two planets are right on top of each other, plus or minus 7 degrees. So to bring it down again, we have Mercury in 26 degrees of Pisces, Mars in 27 degrees of Pisces. These two planets share energy because they're 1 degree apart. So just something to keep in mind when we use that word. It's when somebody has planets that are conjunct or on top of one another, they share energy. So the planet of mind and mouth, Mercury, shares energy with the planet of passion.
Oh my
Um,
God, he was
and
good.
then Dani just said that she wanted to look up if he died during his Saturn return.
He died
So
during like the peak of it.
our Saturn returns, right? The planet Saturn, we all have a Saturn return. This is when Saturn comes back around to where it was when you were born. His natal Saturn, or the Saturn where he was born in, is in Virgo. So essentially, what we're saying is that Saturn, transiting Saturn in the sky. And remember, friends, both of us have courses and content and schools and places to learn this information. If you're feeling overwhelmed right now, I just feel the need to explain this so that you're really getting what we're saying. Saturn was back in Virgo. Saturn returns are loaded topics. Essentially, lots and lots of intense things can happen during Saturn returns. Our main Saturn return is between 28 and 30. We have multiple
Hmm.
during our lifetimes if we are lucky. And so 28 and 30 can be a very big transitional period for a lot of us. And clearly it was for Heath Ledger.
Yeah, it usually, I mean, Saturn, if you look at Saturn as this inner teacher archetype, the
Yeah.
part of us that is meant to be constantly learning from our experience. That's
Mm-hmm.
really what our Saturn represents is we're supposed to be constantly learning from our experience. And so when Saturn returns to the place it was when we were born, we are kind of confronted with our experience thus far. And then
Yeah.
just like Ash said, the universe tends to offer us some pretty life altering either events or decisions during that time.
Yeah.
Um, and if you if you are past the age of 30 and you didn't know you had a Saturn return, highly recommend going back in your mind and thinking back to the ages Ashley said. Go think about, 28 to 30, 29 to 31 ish, and what that time was kind of like for you. You'll have your second Saturn return as you're entering your 60s as well. So that's also something that you can reflect on or think about. But usually it's life altering events or decisions that happen, and often they test the experience we've accumulated thus far. And this is why most people are very different exiting, their Saturn return. But you either see people like learn to be a little more humbled by life, and those are the people that enter into their 30s and go, okay, I thought I fucking knew everything in my 20s, and that humbled me a little bit. Or you see the people that move through their Saturn return, and they don't, look at life that way, and they kind of, this is where we see those Saturn repeated patterns that kind of like haunt people their whole lives. If you ignore your Saturn lessons, they just keep coming back around and around and around and
They
around again.
do.
When you were talking about his Pisces, I just noticed that his Saturn was opposite his Pisces energy because his Saturn is in Virgo. And I just remembered looking at his date when he passed away, and he was 29. And Saturn was in, like, again, without getting into the semantics of it, he was in the height of his Saturn return. Like, it was
So let's
extremely potent energy at that time.
let's break this down a little bit because it's like it was extremely potent energy, and I just think about he was in like he was doing the Joker. He was doing a few movies at that time, and if you guys have done any deep dives on him doing the Joker, there were so many people that were anticipating him doing the Joker.
Mm-hmm.
Like, is he gonna give it justice? Is he the right person for the role? Like,
Mm-hmm.
it was a very like he was being looked at heavily, and a lot rode on him doing a good job in this role. A lot. He had to really go there. I cannot even imagine the amount of pressure that he felt while still bringing this like authenticity to set. There is so much content out there saying, oh, this part in the Joker, that was totally improv by Heath Ledger. This part, no, that was just him. That was just him in the role. Oh, this part, I was absolutely like terrified by him. He was so into the role. Like, all of this is on social media right now, so it's
Yep.
fascinating. But I want to run that back really quick, Dani. Let's dissect what you said. So you said a bunch of stuff here for our audience.
Mm-hmm.
You said when I got into Pisces, it made you look at what's opposite his Pisces and Virgo.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about why. And let's talk about this opposition. Pisces opposite Virgo. For somebody who is just getting into this but doesn't fully understand like why that's important. Why did you go there? What do
Okay.
we mean by that? Let's talk about this as above so below energy that we see in the chart in general, and Pisces Virgo specifically for Heath Ledger.
So anytime I see an energy in a chart that is not expressed in a way that you would like expect it to be. So like there are parts of Heath Ledger that I'm like, okay, I can see that Pisces. But at the same time, like, he expressed a lot of the darker sides of Pisces. And I don't mean that in an evil, negative way. I mean, like, literally through not the sunshine and rainbow side of Pisces. That's what I mean. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
a person who, Heath Ledger, if you watch him in interviews, if you watch him acting, he is a person that strikes this chord of deep to me.
Deep. Very deep.
And complicated, right? Like
Yeah.
there's so much beneath the surface.
Mm-hmm.
So if you mentioned Pisces and right off the bat I was like, "Oh my God, totally Pisces, so Pisces." I probably wouldn't have my eyes wouldn't have strayed the same way. And I probably would have
Yeah.
bias kind of naturally just stayed in the Pisces energy a little bit easier. Maybe I would have even looked to his Scorpio or his Cancer first because I would have
Mm-hmm.
looked for more water. But it was because of that, like, I can see the Pisces, but I can also tell there's something else going on here. And
Mm-hmm.
this is like that intuitive piece to astrology.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's like that combination of what I know and I've learned in my like reading and education about it and a mixture of that little gut feeling. And I was like, this is Pisces and something else. Like this is a little bit, there's another layer here.
Mm-hmm.
I tend to I look at like the main, I go easy with it. So if I'm looking at Pisces and I want to see the next thing, I like automatically go to the other side of the chart.
Well,
I've
I
kind
think
of
it's
trained
important to
my eyes
highlight.
to, hmm
Well, I think it's important to highlight that when you're looking at a birth chart, right? There, we're always looking at opposites. So Pisces is always going to be
exactly,
opposite Virgo, and so it's like a seesaw. And so Pisces has
exactly.
something to learn from Virgo, just as Virgo has
hmm
something to learn from Pisces. And Sagittarius is always going to be opposite Gemini, Capricorn always opposite Cancer, Aquarius always opposite Leo, and
Yes,
so on and so forth. And so when you're looking at a chart, I personally think somebody starting off, one of the most important things to learn is that opposition, because it's
exactly.
important to note as an
Yes, to train
astrologer
your
that
eyes
we're
to do that.
to
Yes.
do that. We're looking at Pisces energy, and we're looking at pretty big hitters like,
Oh
Mars,
yeah.
Mercury, and
Mars?
Venus.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. And so what is opposite that? So any planets like our North Node, the node of destiny, and
hmm
Saturn and Virgo
hmm
opposite these personal sort of planets is really, really important to note. Um, I think Saturn and Virgo is interesting, to say the
Yeah.
least. That's an interesting placement. To give you guys some like keywords here, right? We define Saturn as this inner teacher, which I absolutely loved. Some of the words you'll find in any astrology book would be Father Time, even though Saturn is a feminine planet. It's important to note. Um, Boundary setting, discipline, things like that. And Virgo energy, the virgin, purity. They tend to be associated with like OCD esque energy. I hate saying it like that, but I guess a
They're
better word.
refiners. They're the alchemists. They
Yes.
know how to refine and
Yes.
improve their environment. Exactly. They're
That may be a better
Virgo's
way to phrase it.
motto. So this Ashley brought up such a good point. One of the first things you need to train yourself to do is looking at opposites.
Hmm.
I think this is something that is glossed over until
It
we get to
is.
aspects, but the truth
It
is you
is.
can handle looking at conjunctions and oppositions early, way earlier than we tend to teach them.
It's so
Conjunctions
true.
are just the planets that are already right next to each other. So clusters, like we're already looking at in Pisces, for
Yeah.
example. Look at clusters, but look at face-offs. Look at those oppositions because I think for all of us astrologers, tell me if this is true for you, Ash. It blew the lid off of what I already thought I knew about each zodiac sign when I realized that when they're connected on the same axis, like they're connected by something. Like
Yeah.
they're not opposite by accident. They're on
They
those
it
axis lines for a reason.
Yeah, it opened up my understanding of the signs in a whole different way
They're
once the
opposite
idea of
and yet
opposition worked.
connected, and that's what's
Yeah.
fascinating.
Yeah.
That's what you need to really take in about the axis lines, or the 180-degree opposites in a chart, is they're opposites, but they
Mhm.
also make you kind of lean into that phrase or that euphemism, opposites attract. Like, what's the common
Yeah.
thread though? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
What's the
And
connection
again,
line
guys,
there?
the oppositions, they don't change. The planets within them
No.
do. So, like
Yes.
in Danny's chart and in my chart, Pisces is opposite Virgo. But what
Yes.
Danny has in Pisces and Virgo and what I have in Pisces and Virgo differ drastically.
Yes.
So I just want you guys to
Exactly.
know that, like again, Sagittarius is always going to be opposite Gemini and so on and so forth, which is
Hmm.
why Danny says to the untrained eye, it's a bit easier to swallow oppositions because those don't change.
Yeah.
You can learn an opposition and that opposition will stay steadfast while you're learning other parts of astrology.
Exactly.
It's
So that's,
foundational if you ask me.
I completely agree. When I was having a hard time understanding, this was one of my earliest struggles, I remember. Fresh learning astrology, Aquarius energy. It's hard for me to like really understand. I was having an easier and easier time describing the other zodiacal energy, and I was having a really hard time with Aquarius. And it was when I put the mirror of Leo, its opposite, up to Aquarius that helped me understand Aquarius even better. Their
Mhm.
differences and their
Honestly,
similarities
this
is what
axis is a
helps.
perfect example. Sorry to
Yes.
talk over you. It's
It's
a
true
perfect
though.
example. Yeah, if you guys are looking at the YouTube right now, I'm highlighting, see this axis line right here that's directly Aquarius and
Yep.
Leo. This is what we're talking about, friends.
Yeah, those
So,
oppositions. There, you brought up a great one, Sagittarius and Gemini. When I think of Sag and Gemini, what connects them is their love of learning. They're both naturally
yeah.
curious. They both
Mhm.
naturally rooted in wit and humor. But
Mhm.
Sag, fire, big picture,
Mhm.
laid back, doesn't get hung up by the details. Gemini,
Mhm.
opposite of that. Very focused about the details. Wants to talk about every single detail and look about at
Every
every single
fucking
detail.
detail.
Yes.
I'm like, to give you guys just a little in my personal life. I'm right now in a fucking fight with an old friend of mine. We've been friends for like 15 fucking years. He's a Gemini, and I'm a Sagittarius, and I can tell by right now we're in this like the making up phase, and he like DM'd my husband the other day, and I'm just like the way that he responded, like he's caught up in these details of the argument,
Yes.
and I'm over here like, what's the big picture? Like, we fucking or nah,
Yes.
brah? Like, we
Yes.
good or nah? Like, I'm not trying to go back into, well, you said this on July 10th at 2:57, and it made me feel like that at 3:01. I don't fucking care. We good or nah? Like, that is exactly what Danny is saying, guys. And
Yeah.
Sag could be a little better with that. But, we all
Well,
have works in progress.
and that's why we learn from our opposites, because it's
We learn
another
from our
part of
opposite, yeah.
astrology that
Mhm.
reflects what we already know, which is we are mirrors for
Mhm.
each other. And
Mhm.
so to go
Mhm.
to
Mhm.
Virgo and Pisces, what I offer you, my friends, this is what I love about learning those basic symbols and correspondences with the astrology or with the zodiac sign. So Pisces motto is I imagine.
Mhm.
Virgo's motto is I analyze.
Mhm.
And so
I mean,
Virgo,
look at that right there.
yeah,
Mhm.
exactly. So if we look at his Mercury, Mars, and Venus in Pisces, I imagine, right, these parts of him that are very boundless, very
Mhm.
intuitive, very creative, very connected to not just other people, but like the spirit of other people.
The
Pisces, when we talk
spirit,
about
yeah.
Pisces being connected, it's not just like person to person. It's like the spirit of me is connected to the spirit of you. That's Pisces connection. But
Mhm.
Virgo is like very here on earth and is like, all of that can be real, and I still have to get up for work in the morning. I still have to brush my
Yeah.
teeth tonight. And so I find it fascinating that this happened during a time that he had some of his biggest creative burden he was carrying in his career, right? He was in some of his most deepest and darkest he had ever gone in an acting role ever before. I think that the drugs are both a little bit a part of that and fueling that. Um,
Mm-hmm.
there is there is connections to the addiction cycle in Pisces placements. We see this
Oh,
a
there's a
lot. It's
lot.
very
We see
common.
this a lot with Pisces.
And then we've got
I'm not
Virgo, who's
saying all
like,
Pisces are drug addicts, but
no, no, no. But there
we
is a
see it a lot.
common pattern. Exactly. It's
There is.
not a shoo-in, but it's a
Yeah.
common pattern.
Yeah.
Virgo, on the other hand, is a sign that is often very associated with health and self-health because it is
Yeah.
very associated with the routines and how we serve ourselves and care for ourselves. And so it was almost like he was living beyond his earth limitations. And
Mm.
Saturn is one of the biggest reminders of our physical earth limitations. That no matter far we want to go, we are still a human being. We still have a heartbeat and lungs, and we need a certain amount of X, Y, and Z in order to live. You know what I mean? And like,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
that's part of why I found it so fascinating that his Saturn return was at the high. And by the way, I misspoke. He was 28. He was about to turn 29 in a couple of months. Um, and it was like this time of he went past the limits, which makes sense because of the drugs found in his system. It was ruled an accidental death, which I think it sounds like Ash and I both agree. I believe that's what happened. I don't believe that
I don't think yeah, I
he was
100% believe it
intentional.
was an accident. Yeah.
But that's what
Which
the
is what makes
Saturn
it so
influence
tragic.
was. Oh, of course. And that's
It's what
what
makes
that
it so
Saturn was
tragic.
to me. The limits are physical limits to those drugs in the body. Does that kind of make sense? Yeah,
Yeah,
that
and
was
I think
interesting.
disclaimer too, be careful. I think it's worth saying, and the work that Dani and I do, and we talked about this, which by the way, thank you so much guys for your comments and your DMs and stuff. I don't know if I told you, Dani, but I got a lot of good feedback on the healer episode. Um, the world that we live in, right? It tends to be we like to experiment. We like to experiment. And one thing I've noticed working in this field, a lot of us that work in this field now or that are very in this field definitely had our fair share of experimenting when we were in our teens and our 20s. And it just goes to show how quickly and easily life can be taken from you. Be careful. If you are out there
Yeah.
experimenting, I am nobody's mom, neither is Dani, but I do think with the platforms that we both are building and the conversations that we are having, and that where these characters like lead us, right, when we
Mhm.
are dissecting astrology charts and birth charts, nothing happens by accident, right? And so there's a reason why today, right in the heart of a full moon in Aries, we are talking about this Aries sun character. A lot of millennials listen to us because we are millennials who died in the heart of us growing up and really being shaped as millennials.
Yep.
He died because he was accidentally experimenting with things he probably shouldn't have been experimenting with to try to get some fucking sleep. And
Yeah.
so
Probably went a little too far. Exactly. Or
exactly,
he
he
was
probably
in
went a
a
little too
dark
far.
place and trying to get in a lighter place. Or
Exactly.
exactly. That's, you know
And
what it made me
so,
think of, Ash, when you were
hmm,
talking?
hmm,
It made me think of the metaphor of the siren and about how drugs in this case and the creativity like induced from drugs is kind of like the metaphor of the siren and how
yeah,
it's
yeah,
this
yeah,
alluring thing that like calls us
yeah,
but it
to
can
your death.
literally drown us. Yes.
Yeah. It's so
Yeah.
true. I hear so much in the spiritual community about like, doing this and doing that. It just makes me feel closer,
Be
to spirit, source,
careful.
God,
I
universe, and
agree.
just, be careful with our health isn't to be played with. And it's a very Saturn and Virgo conversation that we're having right now. Speaking of which, just, be aware of what you're doing. And Virgo is the archetype for our health and our body
Hmm.
and what we're doing. And I think Saturn in Virgo is a testament to that. If I'm looking at somebody's Saturn in Virgo, whether or not it's Heath Ledger, some of the conclusions I'm coming to is your physical health, for lack of a better phrase, maybe the bane of your existence in this lifetime. Meaning that you are really working towards figuring out what that might look like for you, what makes you feel like the most healthiest version of who you
Yeah.
are. And because, our Saturn placements, friends, especially like the first part of our lives before we hit that Saturn return in our 30s, we are almost kind of working against the tide.
Mm.
We're kind of doing everything almost opposite of what that Saturn in Virgo wants us to do. And then in that Saturn return placement, it's like, okay, what are we actually doing here? To give you guys a real world example, during my Saturn return, I stopped waiting tables, and I was doing that for like 10, 12 years. I got my master's degree. I left my toxic alcoholic ex, and I built my business.
Hmm.
Like
Yeah.
whole life changes. You redefine who you are
Oh, yeah. I
inside of your
started my
Saturn return.
business and I became a mom during my Saturn return. Blair and I have the same
Exactly.
Saturn placement. She was born during my Saturn return.
You redefine who you are.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah, and so before that, again, just to repeat that, you're kind of working against the tides before that.
Yeah.
So, any more thoughts on Saturn return, Saturn in Virgo, any of that?
No, that was like so fascinating. And honestly, the fact that the North Node is there in
Yes.
Virgo as well kind of tells me this was a soul timeline thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
This was
it does.
it. And I don't mean that in any kind of dark, negative way. I just mean, yeah,
Say what's
the
on your
North
chest,
Node,
girl.
the North Node is bigger than what we'll ever be able to fully actualize in any
Realize.
one of our lives. Exactly. That's the point of it. It's a true soul point on the chart.
Yeah,
And we are only like a fractal of our soul anytime we're in any incarnation.
exactly. I
So we'll
think you put that
never,
beautifully.
because Ash, I don't know about you, but it drives me nuts when astrologers make it like they've broken the mold and they fully understand the North Node. And to me, the way I've explained
No,
it to every client is there should and will always be some of your North Node shrouded in mystery because it's this soul part of you that calls you to places you've never been before. That's where the
exactly.
North Node is taking you. So
I
to
fully
ever act
agree.
like we know everything about it, in my opinion, defeats kind of the purpose of the North Node.
I fully agree. The North Node, also known as the Node of Destiny, this is
Hmm.
where we're going, and it's not supposed to be fully actualized. That is the point, and that's why you've heard us talk ad nauseum about pop astrology and some of the stuff happening in TikTok culture and all of that. So we'll spare you guys, but I fully agree with you. I think it's preposterous for any astrologer to say that they have a full understanding of anything in the chart. This
Yeah,
shit runs deep,
actually,
guys.
yeah, it
Yeah, like
does.
this shit runs hella deep. And the North Node, I think, is one of those really, really, really ominous placements. And to go back to that Saturn and North Node sitting together in Virgo, I mean, that is a karmic point. It is
Yeah,
100%.
it
There's
is.
some deep guttural shit there. And if I were a betting woman, I'd say in whatever incarnation Heath Ledger finds himself, themself, herself, itself in, this placement is probably still there.
Yep, I would agree. I would definitely agree with
Mm-hmm.
that.
Mm-hmm.
I knew it'd be a really cool chart, but that was very fascinating to realize that.
Very, very, very,
Hmm.
very fascinating. Um, I think I think the one last placement I really want to look at for him would be his Chiron, because we're sad girl energy over here. We like that dark shit. So
Yeah,
Danny and I both do. And
yeah.
Chiron is one of those darker placements as well. And I think having a Chiron in Taurus is fascinating. So the first place that I go to when I see his Chiron in Taurus and I compare it to his life is that need to find stability that he couldn't seem to find. I don't think of a particularly stable energy when I think of Heath Ledger in his life. Not to say that he wasn't stable, and when I say stable, guys, don't equate that to mental health, because that's not
Yeah.
what I'm getting at. What I'm getting at when I use the word stable, I just mean homeboy had a lot going on. Like that's what
Hmm.
I mean. There was a lot of moving pieces happening in his life. He was involved in a lot of different things. Like we didn't even really get into the Mary Kate Olsen of it all. Like, there was a lot of chaos happening in his life. And Chiron, to refresh you guys a little bit, is that placement of like our deepest soul wound. And when we look at somebody's Chiron, the placement of it, we're often peering like this voyeur energy into somebody's trauma and somebody's pain. And Taurus, yes, Taurus loves money. Yes, Taurus loves food, all of that. But I think at the heart of Taurus, Taurus loves, wants, and desires stability in their lives.
Yeah,
And so
totally.
when you put Chiron and Taurus together, especially when you're looking at a life like Heath Ledger, I immediately see this want for like even keel, peace almost that he couldn't seem to find.
Yeah, those terms, stability, security, are
Mm-hmm.
at the root of it. And
Mm-hmm.
I think the surface symptom of it is constant discomfort. And Taurus
Mm-hmm.
doesn't really do super well with discomfort.
No.
It wants to find that comfortable spot, and this is where the food, the comfortable home, right? All of that comes from, because at the heart and soul of all of that is that deep need for stable security. And so to have Chiron there tells me that that was threatened or displaced or uprooted more than once throughout
I'm
his
super
life.
life. Yeah, I'm super curious to find out what his childhood was like.
I'm trying
Um,
to read about it very briefly on, like,
there,
Wikipedia is
there's not like
Wikipedia,
too
but
much on
no,
his
it's very
childhood.
short. What's fascinating is how young Heath Ledger was into acting young, but people, when we talk about acting, we are talking about theater. He was an old soul. The more I read about his
Yeah,
early life here, he was
he
an old
old
soul.
soul.
He
Mm-hmm.
he he probably liked silver screen movies better than movie movies.
Yeah,
He was more
probably.
into theater and being an actor. You know what I mean? Like the art
Yeah.
form of acting. The truth is, especially in today's day and age, there are two different types of actors in my opinion. There are those like thespian, right? I'm in it for the art of acting. And I like being on stage, and I like the
Yeah.
notoriety, and I like the fame, and I'm good at this, so I can do all of that. Heath reminds me of somebody who was in the former category. I don't know how much he adored the actual limelight part of it. Or at the least, even if it's not that he didn't adore it, I don't think that's what he got out of it. I don't think that's what
No.
fueled him, which is interesting. And so to have a Chiron in Taurus, but to have this dream and passion of acting, and to have an Aries sun with all those Pisces placements, those placements don't, not in a bad way, but they don't bring us a lot of comfort. They don't bring us a lot of stability. Pisces and Aries are not known for breeding stability necessarily. They're very creative, and they can both be
Yeah.
kind of wandering in their own way. Aries in a little more of
Yeah.
a restless way, and Pisces in kind of an intuitive, getting floating off kind of
Mm-hmm.
way. And it feels like his Taurus Chiron, and maybe even some of that Saturn and Virgo, more of that earth energy, was
Right.
craving some real roots, and dare I say it, deep down, maybe craving some semblance of like normalcy that he knew he would never have.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I do.
Like that
I
simple
do.
life thing, and he probably, I don't know. That would be kind of a burden of carrying around, uh having this constant life lesson of, I might literally never truly feel stable or comfortable, or always fearing that I never will.
I know. Um, we could talk about this all day. I feel
I
like a
know.
lot of what you said leans into his Pluto, his Libra Pluto. And, you know, Pluto is a generational planet and it's got generational stuff. But I do think it's fascinating that he passed without ever, like, we never really saw him like in a super fucking committed relationship. There were rumors about him and Mary Kate Olsen, but there was nothing
Hmm.
that was like in the paint, you know? And
It
it
says he had a
definitely,
child.
yeah.
I forgot about this.
Mm-hmm.
I completely forgot about this. And I
Pluto
can't
and
even
Libra,
see
baby.
where.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Pluto and Libra. Like, I mean, there was a lot. He died so young, 20 fucking 9, 28.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like you were just coming into yourself. Like, I just remember at 28 thinking I had lived all this life and now I'm about to be 36 and I know that I have so much more life to live. Like from your 20s to your 30s, it's so crazy because I just feel like you think that you've got such a good handle on the world around you in your 20s, and in your 30s you step into this phase of humble energy, I feel like, where it's like, you know, I've lived longer than the folks in their 20 somethings and I got some shit to say about some shit, but I am not even close to, I cannot call myself wise. I cannot
Mm.
call myself wise. And I'm tangenting a little bit, but I think it's worth saying, like, understand how young we lost this man. Like
Yeah.
it's so, and also too all that he accomplished at such a young age as
I
well,
know.
which I think is a testament to his
I
midheaven
know.
in Capricorn. You know, like he
So
accomplished
true.
so much to be
One
so
of the
young.
one of the biggest markers of going through all the way through your Saturn return, having Saturn go through a couple more signs after that, and now being able to look back at your Saturn return, and I might sound like a little old lady, and like I might sound like I'm sitting in my old lady pants when I say this, and I don't mean it in a condescending way, but it's true, or patronizing way. If you, my friend, are going through your Saturn return right now, it is so easy to feel like you're an adult. And it's not that you're not. It's
Yeah,
not that you're not an adult. But
yeah,
once you hit your mid 30s and you've had some time since that time, you realize you're able to put into perspective for the first time how young you were at 28 and 29 years old.
yeah,
That's what you're describing
exactly.
to me, Ash. And that's how I
Yeah,
feel about it too. Yet at that time, it doesn't feel that way
no,
at all. You kind of feel that way when you're 18. You kind of feel that way when you're 25. But for the most
mm-hmm,
part, you also have your youth kind of in check. There is something
right,
about that entering into the Saturn return. You kind of feel like you have it all figured out. And I think that's kind
yeah,
of the point of the Saturn return is it's like,
yeah,
no, this was actually just the first chapter of it all. This was actually just
mm-hmm,
the if you look at Saturn as it divides our life into like thirds, like our beginning, our middle, and our
mm-hmm,
end of our life, you feel like that at 29, and then Saturn return comes along, and you're like, oh my God, I don't actually know nearly as much as I thought I did.
anything,
Yeah, and then you're like 35 and you look at 29, and I'm like, I look back at pictures when I was 29 years old, and I'm like, oh my God, I may as well have been 19 in those. Like,
may as well have been 19. That's
that's
exactly
how
it. Yeah,
immature.
exactly.
Yes. That's
Yeah,
how little
yeah,
I knew. Yes. Yes,
it's
exactly.
crazy, it's interesting, you know. So yeah,
Yeah.
I mean,
That's why I
that's
think
what
it
we
does
got,
feel
friends.
tragic when we lose somebody at that age, because when you get
So
to this
tragic.
age, you're hopefully humbled by that a little bit. And now I'm at this place where I'm like, I am only 35. I am young. I've come a long
It's
way.
like,
I know a hell of a lot
yeah,
more now than I did then, but at the same time, I feel so much more humbled by my experience and like open to learning that I didn't feel before my Saturn return. So yeah, this was such a tragedy, because what an incredible human and actor and just all around person Heath Ledger absolutely seemed to be. You know what I mean, to the public. Absolutely seemed to be.
exactly. And
Um,
so, you know,
so
this is
true.
our ode to Heath
Yeah.
Ledger. And I really hope this episode has sparked some curiosity about this man's life. And if you all that are listening are astrologers, we've said this before, it's worth repeating. Like, the best way to get better at your craft is to do this sort of stuff, to look at people that are very much in the public eye, because you can see examples of how some of this stuff manifests in
Mm-hmm.
people, from a better viewpoint than you could just a rando walking down the street. Um, check out his work. Check out his work. Such an amazing man.
Yeah.
What else you got, Dani?
Uh, that was amazing. This was such a good one. This was honestly, recording this under the Aries full moon in Libra season, especially with him having Pluto in Libra, like you
I
pointed
know.
out. This
Yeah,
was this was totally our to
it
ode to
was.
Heath Ledger's legacy.
Yeah, and Libra season and Pluto and just so much going on. Um, yeah, just like in deep thought. And you
I
guys
know.
know, you may not know, I'm moon ruled. My chart's moon ruled. Isn't, wait, your birthday's
Yeah,
coming up. When is it?
yeah. I'm October 30th. I'm the day before Halloween.
So make sure you guys follow Dani and tell her happy solar return, people. Let her know how much we appreciate the magic she puts into the world.
Oh, thank
Um,
you.
yeah, I was thinking about that, but you're Cancer rising, right?
No, I'm Leo rising, but I'm Pisces moon. So I've got a slew of Scorpio in my chart. I have Pisces moon, and then I'm Cancer Chiron.
That's what it is. Cancer Chiron.
Yes.
Okay. So I'm Cancer rising, and then
Hmm.
what's your rising again? What'd you say you broke up?
Leo, Leo.
Leo. Okay. So Danny's chart is sun ruled, and my chart is
Hmm.
moon ruled.
Hmm.
That's fun, right? So you
I
guys can
know.
figure out the ruler of your chart by your rising sign. So find your rising sign. Whatever planet rules that rising sign is the ruler of your chart. And so you want to pay close attention to where that chart ruler is on any given day, because it really deeply affects you. Hence why at the top of this, I was like, downloads, because we're literally in this space of a full moon right now, and my chart's moon
Yep.
ruled. I just love astrology and how it all connects. Dani, let the people know where they can find you, support you, and love on you.
You can find me everywhere across the internet at That Witch Next Door, on my podcast, That Witch Podcast, and my monthly membership, That Witch School. I'm always up over on YouTube and anywhere you listen to your favorite podcast.
Love it. And as per usual, we will have all of Dani's contact info in the show notes. You guys know the drill. You know where to find me. If you're on this podcast, you probably already do, but just in case you missed it, it's Ashley Michelle 90 Day on anywhere that's worth it. What else? What else? What else? Like, share, and subscribe, people. Please. In this like age of saturation and social media, the best way to get noticed is through a like, share, and subscribe. So please do share the episode with a friend, share it with your loved one, share it with your partner, with your mother, whoever's into this shiz. And you can always book with me at ascendingwithashley.net. That's ascendingwithashley.net. And we love you. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you in the next one. Ciao, ciao for now. Hello, friends. I hope you loved today's episode. Make sure you share it with a friend, share it with somebody that you love, and tag me on the gram at Ashley Michelle 90 Day and let me know your thoughts. Leaving that 5-star review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify is literally what helps this work get to the right people. As you may or may not know, we are in the middle of a spiritual revolution, and us being able to get our hands on resources like this podcast and others is what is literally going to make the world go round. So do me this favor and please leave me a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify and share the episode with somebody you love. It really, truly does mean the world to me. I love you so very much, and I will see you in the next one.